we're going to a little bit possession, sort of the effects of possession, how it affects you internally, how it affects the energy externally, and maybe perhaps like our own experiences with possession. So, Anton, if you want to go ahead and start us out.
Okay, so first and foremost, what I want to speak about possession is why some people may find it difficult. A lot of people have trouble actually letting go and allowing the deity to flow through them. The reason because of this is purely fear based and a lack of trust. If you don't fully trust a spirit, it's going to be quite difficult to let it flow through you, to move your limbs, to move your mouth, to speak through you, to have its energy flow through you. A good exercise I would recommend is something like a energetic trust fall, just surrendering yourself, your physical vessel, in that moment of time and a ritual to the spirit and allowing it to sort of flow through you. And each time you do this, it will become more powerful and more powerful to where you can actually have the spirit move through you and speak through you. Another great exercise is to just move your mouth, move your tongue, allow the spirit to start speaking in tongues through you, almost like freestyle rapping a little bit. This is an excellent way to develop channeling via possession. My own experiences with possession is there's many different but levels of possession. You have partial possession, which is sort of like quarter way, halfway possession, which is a lot more potent, and full possession. Now, with partial possession, it's almost like it's overlapping, like half you, half the spirit. And you may not even notice that you're possessed in that moment of time, but your facial features may change, your voice may change, the tone of your voice may change, and your energy and aura will immediately change. The people around you will see and notice this. The look in your eyes will change. Like, for example, with me, when Lucifer is within me, I always end up having eyes like this, somewhat like that. And this goes back to what people say, the eyes are the window to the soul. You can literally see the deity within you through your eyes. Partial possession is very well utilized for many things, spell work, ritual work, channeling even. But the best method I find is full-blown possession. A lot of people black out during this. Some people don't black out like myself, but it will be very difficult to remember what you've said or what you've done. That's why it's important to write it down in these moments of time. It'll be like a dream. You'll wake up, you'll remember bits and pieces of it, but it'll be very, very blurry, almost like you've been drinking all night, and you'll actually feel exhausted physically after. But the actual effects energetically, you will gain, not gain, but wield the power of the spirit. Per se, as you've actually found yourself in your own experiences. With me, when I've done possessions of Lucifer, the effects of him are very intense. You're a lot more visible after, a lot more solar. People will actually come up to you and start spilling out their darkest secrets, telling you their life story when you've actually never even met them, as they do with him always. And you will find that you will embody the energy and abilities of the spirit for a short period of time after. Now, a lot of people ask, what is possession? Possession is high-level invocation. What is invocation? You're summoning something inside of you internally. That's all it really is, a high-level invocation. So that's what I would like to start off with.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I love the analogy of it being like freestyle rapping because like once you get that flow going, it's like I think you made the comparison. It's like water bursting through the dam. Once those floodgates completely open up, I mean, there's like you'll feel that energy flow within you very, very intensely, and then at that point, letting go is almost second nature, at least in my own personal experience. Um, I know when I was starting out with possession work, I would get to the partial possessions where, it was half me, half the spirit, and conversing with the spirit from there is pretty easy. But I wanted to go further. I always want to push myself to see how much I can take. Um, and for me, I had to keep doing it. I had to keep trying, keep working at it, and eventually it just happened. Um, Now, some of the effects that I notice, because I work with Azazel pretty regularly, some of the effects I notice with him when he's doing possessions. One, he he's very good at taking full control. Right, as soon as you feel that energy come on with him, like there's almost no like pushing back against it. Right, and some people that I've worked with this in the past, when they couldn't let go, that's when they started experiencing the blackouts and the strangeness of the what the spirit was saying coming out of their mouth, and them not recalling anything that happened. Um, for me personally, I'm trying to walk somebody else through a possession, and they have this that fear of letting go or not trusting the spirit completely. You almost want to dissociate when this is happening, right? If you have a sigil when you're doing this, you could sort of watch the world black out in front of you, right? And it's you just have the sigil in front of your vision. You'll feel the consciousness of the spirit fill you up, and you just want to keep that going. See how much of that you can take. Um, yeah, there's there's a lot of good stuff that can happen with possession too. Like if you aren't very clairaudient, if you let a spirit take your body, take your mind, and speak through you, that's where you can start to really get like the really deep knowledge from them. Um, and of course, like Anton said, there's level to this. You don't have to do full possession every time you do it. Um, the partial possessions are very good for channeling spells, rituals, communicating your desires fully to them, or working. Let's say if you're working on a pact, partial possessions are really good for that because you can still you still have a remnants of control in that space and time. Now, when you do full possessions, for me personally, um, the spirit will continue to speak through me, and I'll still be aware of everything that's going on. And then when they're done, that's when they sort of start to let go again, and I can move around, I can interact, I can uh, sort of take it all in. I do struggle with remembering a lot of what happens during possessions. So if you aren't able to write down what's happening, I recommend taking out your phone or taking out an audio recorder and recording everything that happens and then dissecting it later. This is especially good if you're channeling like words of power, incantations that the spirit has given you, and then trying to translate all that. Um, that's all I have about that. Now, I th- I th- I think what we can talk about too is after you let a spirit possess you, there have been times for me where I will be out and about throughout my day, and I will feel a spirit come on very strongly. Um, this has happened to me while driving. This has happened to me, uh, recording these podcasts. This has happened to me while just gaming. It's happened to me at work. Um, you're always when this happens for me, it's important for me to know that like nothing's out of the ordinary, especially after this has happened, after I've invited spirit into my body. Um, what's important for me to remember is like if this is happening, it's probably because they are trying to let me or uh, they're trying to tell me something and they want it to be communicated very clearly. So Anton, I don't know if you've experienced stuff like that happening to you, but if you want to talk about possessions happening out in the world outside of ritual, that'd be awesome to hear you share about that a little bit.
That has happened to me quite often. It's usually when they want me to pass something on to someone. Um, Usually extreme shadow work or something along those lines. It's not usually always something that is good. It can lead to opening up wounds of trauma healed again. But it does happen very, very often. And even sometimes I'll jump in other people around me. I've seen that happen. I've been with people and I've meant to be doing something for them that night, but I've gone, I'm just going to go out instead, have some fun, be a little bit human for once. And they're sort of sitting back looking like, yeah, okay, we'll see. And yeah, and I'm with people, and all of a sudden, these people, their face will change, just as mine changes, and their energy will change. And I'll pick up on it, and they'll say something that they can't know, and they'll look at me with that look, and then they'll go back to normal, and I'll test them, and I'll be like, "Do you remember saying that?" Like literally, like 10 minutes after, and like, "No, what are you talking about?" Like literally blank, like a blank slate. And I'm like, "Okay, I know what this is." So it does happen very often, and you will feel them literally jump in you. Like for me, it's always from the back. I don't know why, but it's always from the back, like they're like I'm the horse and they're the jockey. Like they're just jumping on me and making me go go go. But another thing you'll find with possession is your voice will change, the way you speak, the tone of your voice, the energetic resonance of your voice. With Lucifer, it'll become more, at the end of it, you'll start speaking more elegantly. You'll be able to say words that you aren't really used to saying. You'll be talking in ways that you don't talk. For me, I found that when I do possessions of Lucifer for a long period of time after, my intellect is boosted greatly. I'll be using words that I don't even know what they mean in the correct way that they're meant to be used. And I'll have to look up these words that I'm saying. And like, oh my God, how do I know that? How do I know this? You can channel all sorts of information that you don't even know about. As you know, I've channeled information about money and how the world works, the system, all of these things, just from working with Lucifer and other spirits in general. They'll download it into you through possession. But another thing that a lot of people actually get, which is really common, is you'll get cravings. The same things that the spirits sort of want. When I was working with Tiamat for a bit, doing invocations, partial possessions, to actually empower me and transform me, which is another thing entirely, I was craving not meat, but organs in particular, liver, heart, very things that are rich in blood, because Tiamat is very vampiric. And I was going out of my way to buy these things, eat them, just because Tiamat was still within me partially for quite on and off for a week and a bit, and I was eating all of these things. With Abaddon, after possession with him, I'll be craving rich, dark, decadent things like dark chocolate, all of these things, and I'll get blocks of it and just devour it like an animal. And this is quite a regular occurrence. I've seen videos of people doing possessions and they're just scoffing at cakes and stuff. Belial loves carrot cake, all of these things. But what you can also do with possession is it's a great way to transform yourself. Right? Say you want to work, for example, with Tiamat to transform vampirically, empower your vampiric senses, your vampiric powers, astral projection. You can invoke Tiamat to a level of possession, and she will take some of your energy and give you some of hers in this process and transform you through being within you and overlapping over your astral double as well. So it's a great way to actually enhance, empower, and alchemize yourself as well, specifically accordingly to the spirit's energy.
Awesome. Awesome. I also want to mention that when you even if you're just doing invocations, you will start to take on traits of that spirit. It doesn't happen just with possessions. I know early on working with spirits like Dantalion, per se, he's a very clever, enthusiastic spirit. He loves to joke around. He's a very good conversationalist. Same with Asmodeus. He's very elegant with me. He's very royal with me. Um, and I started taking on those traits, even not being aware of it at the time. Um, Something that I thought was interesting when you were talking, Anton, was when you talk about spirits entering from you, entering into you from the back. I was doing possession last night, right? And we were seeing and hearing things all over the apartment, and I felt Azazel walk up to the back of me and almost like sit down inside of me, and that's when I started to feel it overtake my body. That's when the possession started to take place. Um, I also want to share about my experience with seeing spirits jump into other people. Now, I don't know if this is wrong of me, but in my city, there are uh, what are called psychic fairs, people that do channeling and stuff like that, but they do it for price and whatnot. And I thought I was like, well, let's see how good they are with this stuff, right? So I was, picked the lady out. She did like angelic communication and whatnot. And I was like, I had invoked the Zazel in my car. I was like, let's fuck with these people. And he was like, okay. Um, and I could literally, while I was speaking with this girl, I could see the moment that Azazel jumped into her, and she was like, "It just got really hot in here. Yeah, he's speaking to me right now. All this information's coming from him." And I was like, "He's being really nice to you right now. Like, if you just feel hot, believe me, that's just the tip of the iceberg." Now, what I want to warn people about is levels of possession. You will develop a very intimate connection with the spirit. So even before you start invoking spirits, I would recommend doing an evocation, calling them forth outside of your body to see how you get along, to see what the spirit is like before you start inviting them into your body. It's almost like knowing who you're getting into bed with, right? Same thing with offering blood. Know who you're getting into bed with. Um, because once that possession takes place, once those invocations start taking place, man, like you guys are going to be connected for a long, long time, and they're going to be all over your life. I mean, you will see them as you're out in public. You will feel them hanging around you when you're, you know, busy with your social life or with your work life. Like there's not going to be uh, any boundaries with them, right? You will always feel them at some level in the corners of your eyes or around you. At least in my experience. A lot of times they will show up to my workplace too, not really trying to give me any sort of uh, deep knowledge, but just to talk to me. Uh, Specifically, they like to talk about other people there. I don't know why, but these spirits have a plethora of personalities, and uh, when they want to express something, they definitely express how they feel about other people around me. Um, and I have noticed once you have that intimate connection with them, if somebody's sort of on your bad side or they're doing things to provoke you, they will take care of the situation whether you want it to happen or not, right? And I have to tell people like when you're making jokes about this kind of stuff, man, around me, like be careful because they're around and they're paying attention. You know, they have completely shut down equipment at my job. They have, I mean, I could go on and on and on about what happens once this connection is made that deeply within you. And I'm getting hot right now just talking about it. Uh, but that's sort of what you should expect once this is happening. So if you have a patron or if you've worked pretty closely with a spirit thus far, like, there's no problems in trying to deepen that connection, right? But again, know who you're getting into bed with.
100%, I agree with that. not every spirit in your path you're meant to do a possession with, unless that's part of your path. Usually it is always the patron. So always know who you're getting in bed with. Not just like how every spirit you work with, you're not meant to give blood to, you know? You may be working with some vampiric entities and probably shouldn't give them your blood, because they will always have that tie to you. They'll have control over your physical vessel with that blood. So always give it to a spirit that you've developed a good relationship with and developed trust with. Now, with what you said about spirits protecting those who they are close with, they do that, one, because they like you. You have something within you that it reflects part of them. A lot of people already have traits of their patron within them, henceforth why they're patron and very close with them. But it's also an investment. They're invested in you. You are something that they want to work on, something they want to build up in the end. And you are family to them. And they will protect their family. Even as I speak now, it's getting a bit deep, like everything's changing. But I've experienced the same thing exactly. People who have tried to harm me, people who have tried to betray me, deceit me, and stab me in the back have been dealt with accordingly. And it's happened in weird circumstances where I haven't done anything on my own. I've let it be. And things have just happened and they've come forth to me when I've found out this information has been brought to me in a very coincidental manner. The spirit will come forth and was like, I did that. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, good to know. There was one instance where I was at some bus when I was younger, and I think it was like 10 people came up to me. And they really, there was going to be an issue. I could feel it. The air got all different. There was going to be some violence happening and occurring. And I was with an ex-partner of mine and another friend. He was a bit smaller. He couldn't fight. And I took the role as I needed to protect them. And these people were like, why don't you wait for the next bus? And I looked at them and said, do I know you? What's your issue? What do you want? You know? And they basically just wanted to attack us. That's all they wanted. The bus rocks up as we're arguing back and forth, and they go off wild, absolutely crazy. And I've shoved my partner on the bus, I've shoved my friend on the bus and stood in the bus doorway and just made sure they couldn't get on the bus and told the bus driver to shut the door. And one of them pulled out a knife and he goes, I'm going to stab you. You know, I just sat there and was like, yeah, come on, do it. Like, you know, laughing. And they didn't do anything, right? But the one that pulled the knife and his best friend, because I know who these people are, about 6 months later, he died. He got stabbed in the heart 3 times. And this information was brought forth to me. And Abaddon came forth and was like, yeah, that was me. And it's happened in a very strange manner where his friend, who was the one who instigated the situation where they were going to attack me, had to sit there and witness his friend die. And I've actually met this person again later on, and he's apologized to me and said how he regretted the whole thing because he had to watch his friend, the one who pulled the knife on me, die from being stabbed. And he's changed his whole life, become a better person from it and all these other things. And we made amends. Things like that can happen when people go to threaten your life and these spirits are invested in you and you are family with them, you work with them deeply. They will protect you and they will come in with unmerciful wrath.
That's awesome, Anton. It reminded me of the old the saying, he who lives by the sword dies by the sword. Being stabbed in the heart 3 times. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that that this is the work of spirits. That's sort of like their signature. They will make it very obvious that they are behind what it is that happened in these cases. You know, and it may not be very violent like that all the time. Specifically, like my relationship with Belial, he will remove people from my life either by moving them away or by giving them an opportunity or throwing them in prison just to just to get them out of the way because he sees it as a blockage or he doesn't see the person as for my own best interest. Um, yeah, I think we've talked about quite a lot of good stuff when it comes to possessions and relationships with spirits. So if you have any final thoughts, Anton, go ahead and speak. Otherwise, we can go ahead and close this up.
My final thing to say is before you open these doors, before you step into this world and become immersed in it permanently, think very carefully about if you want this or not. Because there is no going back once those doors are open. This will become your life and you will embody this entirely. And it's not for everyone. Some people will lose themselves, they will lose their minds, they will lose their souls and become empty husks and ultimately go insane. It's happened before. I'm sure a lot of other occultists who are watching this now know exactly what I'm talking about. And with that said, just think very carefully if you want to go in that deep or not, and if you're prepared to go in that deep. So that's all I have to say.
It's very wise, Anton. Um, this really is a door, once it's open, can't be shut. So carefully consider that. Anyways, thanks everybody for tuning in. Hope you guys have a wonderful day or night, wherever you are, whatever time you're watching this. Rise and conquer, everybody. Have a good one.